Hi, and welcome to this episode of Consciousness and Me. My name is Josephine, and today I thought we were going to talk about that whoever you think you are, that's not who you are. And how can I be so certain? Well, first of all, it's not a lot I'm certain about, but this is my perspective. This is how I see it. That our thoughts happens inside of us. I'd like to call it consciousness, but maybe that's going too fast. But anyway, our thoughts happens inside of us. And who we think we are is a thought. It's a mental representation. And given that it's a mental representation of the actual thing, of me, inside of me, it cannot be what I am. Because whatever I think of myself, it has to be smaller. It has to fit in to what I am. Does that make sense? Let's see if I can make another suggestion. Like, let's say a house that's empty inside. Let's say like a barn, like a farmhouse, a barn. And this barn is trying to figure out what it is. It has no idea of itself. So it starts to ask people what it is. It starts to look at itself. It cannot have an outside perspective of itself. So it starts to look at itself from the inside. It looks at itself in mirrors. I mean, it can see itself in a mirror, but it can't go out of itself looking at itself. So it starts to build something inside of itself. It starts with a little model, and it realizes that the more people say about it, like the details don't fit. So however detailed this model, if this model is going to be exactly like it is, it has to be just as big as the actual barn. Because anytime you make it a little bit smaller than the barn, you have to edit out some details. Some crack in the wooden floor, some dust particles floating around inside the barn. If you're going to make it actually smaller than it is and build it inside of itself, you're going to have to make it smaller, and you're going to have to cut away details. And the same is true for us. If we're going to do a mental representation, an image of ourselves inside of our mind, it has to be smaller than it is, than I am. And then you might say, well, you're not really your body. And that's true. I don't believe I am. So even if I am my consciousness, then I have to make a model of consciousness that fits within the boundaries of consciousness. So it becomes this self-referencing loop that something that it is going to make a mental representation of itself inside of its own boundaries. You can't fit it all in there. Okay, but then you can also argue that I don't have to build, like the barn doesn't have to build a model of itself to have an image of who it is. And yes, that's true. So let's say that the barn, instead of building a model of itself, it actually just writes down on a piece of paper. This is what I observe about myself, so I'm probably like this. People say I have a red exterior, so that's probably it. And it writes down texts and it describes itself. So what it now has, it's like a big, thick book lying inside of it with a description of who it is. And that might be very accurate. But if it makes the mistake of pointing to this book and saying, this is who I am, this is me, then that's not truth. The barn is not the book. The barn is itself. The being, the existence, the isness of it. And the same is true for us. If we build a model inside of ourselves, it's only a description of what we are. But if we identify with this description, be it an image or be it thoughts, that's not what we are. That's what we call ego. the thing that we think that we are, our mental construction of ourselves. It's the same as the barn pointing to the book and saying, that's who I am. So what we are cannot be the thing we think about. We can only be ourselves. The barn is the barn. It is not a model of itself. It is not a book that captures everything about it. It is itself. And the same is true for us. We are. We can be described, but that's not the description. We are not that description. Maybe this is obvious for you. Maybe you still try to wrap your head around it, or maybe you have a different experience. Please share your comments below. If you have any questions or any stories to share of your own.